Hello, my name is Ben Wilting and I work for the Amarillo Public Library. This is part 1 of a 13-part series designed to help you obtain citizenship in the United States. Today, we are going to have an overview of the course, all the requirements that you need to meet in order to obtain citizenship, as well as how to begin the process of obtaining citizenship. We will also provide you with a list of official resources to help you along the way. Stay tuned. The process of obtaining citizenship can seem difficult at first. We hope that through this series, we can give you everything you need to be confident about going through this process. This is an overview of what you can expect in our 13-part series.
Okay, let's get started with our course overview. In this course, we are going to cover all the requirements that you need to fulfill before applying for citizenship, the general process of how to obtain citizenship, the civics questions that you will have to know for your citizenship interview, the reading and writing portion of your citizenship interview, your citizenship interview and what you can expect there and how you can prepare for that interview, and how to file and understand the N-400.
Before applying for citizenship, there's a list of requirements that you must meet. This is the list of those requirements.
Citizenship requirements. There are quite a few requirements that you need to meet before you can apply for your citizenship, before you can send in your N-400. We're going to address those. The first one is that you have to be over the age of 18. If you're not over the age of 18, you cannot apply for citizenship using the N-400. You can obtain citizenship if you're under 18 through your parents, however. If one of your parents obtains citizenship while you're under the age of 18, then that citizenship just transfers down into the minor, the person who's under 18. In obtaining documentation that proves your citizenship, you can use their citizenship certificate. In order to get a passport, you can file an N-600, which is the form which allows you to get a certificate of your own if you would desire. But you must be over the age of 18 in order to obtain citizenship yourself. The second requirement is that you must be a legal permanent resident for at least 5 years. This means that you've held your permanent resident card, your green card, for at least 5 years, and the date that it was issued will be on that card. When trying to determine when you can file your N-400, just look at that date on the card when it was issued and just move the years forward 5. If you apply early for citizenship, before that 5th year anniversary of being a legal permanent resident, they will not take it. They will send it back. They will say wait until the 5th year anniversary. If you've been married to a U.S. resident, that 5-year obligation is reduced to 3 years. So instead of 5 years, you only have to hold the resident card for 3 years. The third requirement for obtaining citizenship, or before you fill out your N-400 and get started with the process, is that you must be physically present in the United States for at least 30 months of that 5-year period. If you take lots of trips outside the country, this may become problematic. If you're married and you only have to meet the 3-year obligation, this 30-month obligation is reduced to 18 months, meaning you only have to be in the country for 18 months rather than 30. Before filing your N-400, you must also have lived in the state that you're applying in for at least 3 months. So if you've recently moved to another state, you may have to wait a couple months before you can apply. You must fill out a N400 form. This is a 20-page application with several questions on it, asking about yourself and your background, your history. USCIS will go over this application and make sure that everything that you fill out matches their records, and then they'll ask you about it in an interview. You'll have to pay the N400 fee or file an I-912. Currently, the N400 fee is $640, but that will soon change to $1,170. So just make sure that before you file your fee, you check the USCIS page for the N400, and we'll have that listed in the description below, to make sure that the filing fee that you submit with your application is accurate. Once you've filled out your form and sent in the filing fee, you'll be required to pass a civics test, which is 100 questions. These questions are about U.S. geography, history, government. You'll have to learn 100. Out of that 100, they will ask you 10 questions. You must get 6 of those 10 correct. During your interview process, if you answer the first 6 of their 10 correct, they'll stop. So as soon as you get 6 correct, that part of the test is over. There's also a reading and writing test. This will be the reading test. They will give you 3 sentences that you need to read. Again, you only need to read one of those correctly. And once you've read it correctly, the test is over for that portion. They will move on to the next portion of the test. The writing test, very similar. They will read up to 3 sentences for you. You have to be able to write one of those sentences correctly. Once you do that, that portion of the test is over for you, and they'll just move on. For these reading and writing portions of the test, they will have a bank of words. This will be 2 separate banks, one for each portion. You'll study those banks of words, and those will be what you see on the test. They won't use any words outside of the lists that they provide on their website. So the final part of your English test will be your ability to demonstrate that you can speak English, at least at a conversational level. The interviewer will be conversing with you. They may engage in some small talk. When they ask questions of you, they're going to be gauging how well you answer them or how comfortable you are with English. During this portion, they will go over the N400 and make sure that you understand everything you filled out. They may ask you what certain words mean on the form. They may ask you what questions mean in layman's terms, just to make sure that you understand what you filled out. However, it is possible to be exempt from the English test. This would mean that you could take the test in your native language, and you would not have to take the reading or writing part of the test. To qualify for that, you must be at least 50 years old and have been a lawful permanent resident for 20 years when you file your N400. Or you can be 55 years old and have been a legal permanent resident for 15 years. There is also one special circumstance. If you are over the age of 65 years old and have been a lawful permanent resident for 20 years, you can be exempt from the English test, and you will also be given a simplified version of the civics test. So if you meet those requirements, just know that those English requirements for the test, you can be exempt from them.
Once you know you meet the requirements, you can begin the process of getting your citizenship. Let's take a look.
So let's go over the process that you can expect as you obtain your citizenship. The first thing that you're going to do is fill out your N400 paperwork. This is a 20-page document. It asks a lot of personal questions of you, a lot of background history. The main thing to remember here is to fill this document out as honestly and as accurately as possible. You want to make sure that you understand each of the questions that this form asks and answer them completely. If while you fill out the form you have any questions or concerns about any of the questions, it is very important that you find someone who can answer those, who can explain the language in a way that you understand. So once you've filled out the N400 paperwork, you're going to send it in to the USCIS office in your location. You can find that online at uscis.gov. You're going to send that in with either the filing fee or the I-912, which is the fee waiver if you qualify. Once USCIS receives that documentation with the fee, they're going to send you back 3 letters. They're going to send you back a letter asking you to come to a biometric center where they'll take your fingerprints and pictures. They are going to send you a letter that confirms your payment, that says that the money you sent in or the fee waiver went through and there's no issues there. And then they're going to send you a letter with the USCIS online account information. We highly recommend that you go ahead and create the online account. This will allow you to track the progress of your N400. If you miss anything in the mail, there will be an opportunity for you to catch that with your online account. Any modifications or changes that they make to your account, any progress that they make with your N400, they'll document online. You can see that if you make the online account. All of the correspondence that USCIS will do will be through the mail. It is very important that throughout this entire process, you're regularly checking your mail for USCIS documents. If at any point during this process that you move or go out of town for an extended period of time, you need to make sure that you take care of that. If you move, you can change your address through the uscis.gov website and make sure that they have your new address. If you go out of town, make sure that someone is checking your mail for you so that if anything important comes, that you know about it. Okay? If there's any issue with your N400 or payment, they will send everything that you sent back. They'll send it back to you with a paper explaining why they didn't take it. They'll give you an opportunity to make the corrections that you need to make, and then you can send it back to them. Once they have done the background check and evaluated the paperwork that you've sent in, you'll be summoned for an interview. This can take anywhere from 3 to 4 months to 12 to 15 months. It just depends on how busy your particular USCIS office is at the time that you send it in. You can go online to the USCIS.gov website and check how long it's taking for them to process certain paperwork. I'll have those USCIS.gov resources available below in the description for this video. So when USCIS summons you to the interview, they'll do so with a letter. This letter will have the address of where you need to go, a time, and a date. It will also have some instructions for what they want you to bring to the interview. It's a good idea to read this very carefully and make sure that you bring everything that they ask for. Tax information, your green card, your driver's license, any other passports that you may have. They want all of those things brought to your interview, and we'll go over that a little bit later in this series. While you wait the several months that you'll have to wait to go down for your interview, it's a good idea to continue studying and preparing to take the citizenship test. Go over your 100 questions until you're comfortable with all of them. Go over the reading and writing words until you're prepared to read or write sentences with all of those as well. It is also very important that you continue to go over the N400. When you take your interview, you're going to be asked about all of the questions and all of the answers that you gave to those questions on the N400. It's very, very important that you understand when you go into your interview what all those questions asked and what you answered. So once you go to your USCIS interview, it's a good idea to go a little bit early. Now, USCIS asks that you don't come, I believe, any more than 30 minutes in advance, or perhaps it's 15 minutes. However, it is a good idea to make sure that you know the location of the building. Drive by before you actually go in. You can drive by an hour before your interview, go grab a cup of coffee, and then come back when they require you. But it's a good idea to know exactly where that building is before your interview. Once you're in the interview, they're going to ask you the civics questions. They're going to ask you the reading and writing portion of the test, and then they're going to go over your N400. Provided that you answer all the questions correctly, after that, they'll say, congratulations, you've passed your test, and then you'll qualify to be sworn in as a U.S. citizen. So when you take your interview, there's also the possibility that you will not pass. Maybe you got nervous, you didn't answer your questions correctly, or maybe there was some information on the N400 that the interviewer would like to see more of. Whatever the case, if you do not pass your interview, you'll get another chance. They will give you a sheet of paper, and it'll tell you exactly what you missed on your interview. And then they'll instruct you to go back home, and then they'll send you another letter with an appointment to come back and retake the interview. Provided that interview goes well, you will then have the opportunity to be sworn in. Sometimes they can do that at the office that day if they're having a swearing in, but oftentimes what they'll do is they'll send you home, and they'll say wait for a letter, and we'll send you a letter with an appointment for a swearing in. The swearing in ceremony will be done with several other people who have passed their test. You'll all go to the designated location at the time and the date. A ceremony done where at some point you will read the oath of allegiance, and we'll go over that later in this series. But once you've read the oath of allegiance, you will be handed your citizenship certificate, and from that point on, you are a U.S. citizen. So that is just a brief overview of the process, a brief overview of what it takes to become a U.S. citizen. We'll go over several of these parts in more detail later in this series. So if you have questions on some of this, we're going to be going on, we'll go over it again. Throughout the process, you may have several questions.
The following is a list of trusted resources that you can use.
As you go through this process, you may have questions or concerns about either the N400 or how long you're waiting. If you have a special circumstance, you may have questions about what you need to do personally to prepare for the citizenship test. Throughout any point in this process, it's important that you know that there are official resources out there for you to use. There are tons of free resources on the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services website. That's uscis.gov. I've got that link below in the description. Before you look anywhere else, it is very important that you go there first. With citizenship, there are a ton of people who will try to scam you out of money to get you to pay for certain forms, or try to get you to pay to do certain services that you could have done for free. It's very important that before you pay anyone for any form or do anything that involves payment, that you go to the uscis.gov website. If you're going to a website that has .com or .org at the end, that is not a government website. That's not the official website. So make sure that if you're getting resources or information, that it's a .gov website. It's the uscis.gov website. Other organizations that can help, the OLAP recognized organizations, OLAP. I'll have a link below for a list of those. You can select your state, and then they'll give you a list of all the OLAP recognized organizations. Those are organizations that are accredited to help with citizenship. If you have a question that's complex or that needs a little bit if you have a question that's complex or complicated and you can't figure it out on your own, it's a good idea to reach out to an OLAP organization to help you with that. The third resource is immigration attorneys. There are law offices that specialize in immigration cases. So if you have a situation with your citizenship process that you feel you need a legal representative, you can reach out to an immigration attorney, and they can also often be helpful in those types of situations. And finally, you can also ask friends, family members, neighbors that you trust with certain questions that you don't feel comfortable with. Much of the language used in the N400 and the letters you receive for a non-native speaker can be complicated. You can always reach out to someone who's more competent in English to help you understand what a question means or what a word means. It is very important that everything you receive and everything you turn in concerning USCIS, you understand fully. Even if you understand most of it, it's a good idea to go to someone who may be more competent with English than you are, who understands a little bit better, so they can explain it to you. And you can ask this of anybody who you would trust with your information. There are several organizations, church organizations, local library organizations who help with just this sort of thing. However, again, I must advise or warn you that there are also lots of people who will try to take advantage and will try to charge you money for this type of service. So just be very careful if someone's trying to charge you money.
Thank you for joining us. That was part 1. Join us next time for part 2, where we'll cover civics questions 1 to 11. See you next time.